This is Bella Coola, a remote mountain valley at the farthest reach of one of Canada's longest oceanic fjords, the gateway to the Great Bear Rainforest, an area renowned for its incredible wildlife. Mountain peaks lost in clouds and crystal glacial water, the scenery here is a little out of this world. This is a place people dream of, but often don't make it due to its remoteness and inaccessibility. Our journey here began days ago when we made the 70 nautical mile journey up this 10,000-year-old waterway carved out by glaciers of the last ice age, sailing through squalls and thunderstorms to arrive here in this remote town at the end of the road. Rugged and wild, join us on an unforgettable experience as we journey to one of the most incredible places you might never get to. Good morning. We just left the marina at Bella Coola and we've already spotted a whale ahead of our boat. I was just trying to get the boat up ahead on the radio to let him know that a whale is there. Such an awesome way to start the day. It is so beautiful here. We're currently on our way to Tallheo Hotsprings, where we plan to drop the hook for the day and enjoy what is meant to be one of the most incredible hot springs on the coast. Super excited. It's looking like it's going to be a really nice day. It's still pretty calm and settled here, but the sun is trying to poke through, so that's awesome. I'm just going to make some coffee because it's still early and we're pretty tired. Just enjoyed some coffee and breakfast underway. One of my favorite things about living and cruising around on this coast is the amount of wild salmon you get to enjoy. We've had salmon almost every day. The salmon are everywhere right now. People are fishing and they have surplus salmon that they want to give you. And then we've also been gifted a lot of canned salmon. We've been having it for breakfast, lunch, dinner. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's really a problem that you want to have is like your boat listing to one side because there's too much canned salmon on board.
We also have some canned elk and clams and pulled pork, so we're eating well on the ship.
Oh yeah. We're just arriving at the intersection of the Head of Burke Channel, North Bentnick and South Bentnick, and it's kind of where the three arms meet here in kind of like a crossroads of the waterway. There's still no wind yet this morning, which I think is awesome because it'll give us a chance to stop at the hot springs on the way in. You can see from all the low-lying cloud that there hasn't even been enough of a breeze to really lift it up over the hills yet. So that's a pretty good indication that it's going to be calm for the next couple of hours still. If it does start to blow though, from this point onwards, it would be blowing into the inlets. So as we come around the corner here into the south arm, we would be then sailing downwind again for the rest of the way, which is pretty well perfect.
Glaciers have dramatically left their mark on the landscape here, scouring out old river valleys into U-shaped fjords like this one, stretching 100 kilometers deep into the heart of the coastal mountain range. These mountains, some of the largest in BC, are part of the legendary Pacific Ring of Fire, a tectonic belt of volcanoes circling the Pacific Ocean. Geothermal hot springs, like the one we're journeying to today, are evidence of this mysterious volcanic activity. Truly a land formed by fire and transformed by ice.
I'm glad that we've timed it pretty well this morning to come out on the calm, and we're arrived here and it's still calm, and that we're going to have an opportunity to go explore the hot springs this morning. We're just coming up on Tallheo hot springs here, and it is still really, really deep. Like, we're in 650 feet of water, and the shore's just there. Anchoring here is really exposed because the wind will funnel straight up the channel towards where you're anchored and basically just drag your boat straight off the shelf. There is a little bit of a spit that comes out, and we understand that we're meant to anchor in about 30 feet of water, fairly close, either just off the spit or just tucked in behind the spit. So we're going to have a real good scout around the area, kind of work out where we are. It's getting a little bit later in the day, and we can already start to feel the wind blow into the channel. You can see the clouds are starting to lift up off the side of the hills and are definitely tracking a little bit faster. But we're going to have a good scout around, test the holding, check it all out. So we're in about 40 feet of water here, which is actually pretty good. There's a little landing bay over there, which I think you're meant to tie your dinghy up to. There's a little bridge that we can see. I'm just gonna do a quick little scout around the shelf and just kind of get an approximation of its size, and then we can work out where we're gonna put the hook. Yeah, graceful.
1, 2, 3.
Seems almost criminal to burn gas to do the 20 meters to shore. Unfortunately, it's a necessary safety because if the boat does drag and ends up down the inlet, we need to be able to go get it. And paddling after a boat that's drifting, nah. So we'll leave the outboard on so that we can recover our big boat in case we have to. And here we are, we're already here at shore. There you are, landing party. Right here. Ta-da! Much closer than we thought. It makes me feel really good because we can keep an eye on the boat to make sure the boat doesn't drag, and we can hot tub at the same time. Amazing. It's like the perfect temperature.
Wow. Oh my gosh. This is crazy.
Okay, this could be my new favorite place.
It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's totally Goldilocks temperature. Nobody here. Huh.
Isn't it lovely?
This is the best thing ever. Wow.
And it's not salty.
It's not salty or sulfury.
Could be the best hot springs on the coast.
So good. How was that?
Good. Oh. Coming back into the warm water from the cold water. It's definitely where it's at. Oh. It's crazy how you acclimatize to the cold water. Never suspect that. You'd always think that hopping in the cold water is like the hardest bit. And I guess it is mentally, but it actually feels really nice after being like that hot. You know, I tasted the ocean and like it's barely salty up here.
Really?
Yeah, like it doesn't taste like ocean.
Wow.
The fresh water sits on top of the salt because the salt is denser. Like you could drink it. Like it's that fresh. So we just made a really cool discovery here. When they built this and they put the concrete in to make this little retaining wall for this pool, they put the imprint of a beer can into it so that you can, it sits there perfectly. Isn't that amazing? What forward-thinking folks up here in Bella Coola.
And we just found beer holder number 2, so this shall be my spot.
Cheers, guys. Nice big spot prawn. It's beautiful. And this is a stripy prawn. Also beautiful. We're gonna go motor over to the Larso Cove. We may as well troll a line for coho while we're at it.
There's a little bit of an outflow wind this morning. It's very gentle, maybe like 5-6 knots of wind. We wanted to check out all of James' sewing progress, so we rolled out the head sail and we are cruising along at 2.5 knots. We're told that it's better to catch salmon when you're not running the engine. Maybe this quiet trolling session will land us a coho. We've had an amazing couple of days hanging out at Tallheo Hotsprings. The weather has been so settled the last couple of days, so we've been able to remain anchored in the middle of the inlet overnight. In the morning, there are some tour groups that come through. Yesterday there was a bachelorette party, and today there's a bachelor party. So we decided to haul up anchor and cruise over to Larso Cove, which is just about 2.5 nautical miles from Tallheo Hot Springs.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool to check out Larso Cove. It's the only other protected anchorage here in South Batnick Arm, so being anchored out in the soft holding in front of Tallheo Hot Springs, totally fine for a few hours when it's nice and settled, even overnight when it's settled. But People drag there quite often. You're kind of on a lee shore with the wind from whichever way the wind's blowing. So a lot of people go to Larso Cove, Larso Bay, Camp 2 it's also known as, and anchor there. Big mud flat, and it's an old logging operation. I think they still do log out of there. If you go up the logging road, there's a huge tree that's worth going and checking out that the old time loggers left standing because it was just too big to cut down. Or so we're told. Unfortunately, not many of them left in BC anymore. It's a kind of a travesty that the entire province used to be covered in these things, and now they don't really exist anymore. It's kind of like seeing a white rhinoceros. A white rhinoceros. I'm keen to go check it out, go stretch the legs, and then come back to Tallheo Hot Springs when it simmers down, not in temperature, but in the quantity of people. We're just going to scout out a prop spot to drop a prawn trap. I'm told it's pretty good prawning here, so we're going to see if we can catch another prawn or two for dinner. We'll anchor up in the head of the bay after the trap's dropped, and we'll go find this big tree, hang out for the afternoon, wait through a period of slack, come pull this trap, then head back over to the hot springs for a soak. So we're just going to do a couple of little loops about here, check to make sure that the bottom floor actually matches the contours on the charts, and then we can work out where we want to drop our trap.
So we just dropped the hook in about 60 feet of water, and the hook dug in right away, super solid. We backed down on it and it didn't budge. And now we have our own private lagoon here in front of the trail to the big cedar tree.
Very nice campsite here at the trailhead. The trail is nice and obvious, which is always a blessing when you're coming to an anchorage that says it has a trail. Some of them are less than obvious and you're just kind of like, what? This is just bush.
That's more fun.
That is more fun, but this is very well defined. There's a Parks BC sign that says campsite and trailhead. And I mean, it's gorgeous. Look at this turquoise bay. The flies are a little intense, but that's cool. It's their time to shine. Let's go check out this tree. We'll head up the trail.
So we walked like a kilometer up a deactivated logging road and then jumped off where it said trail. And I think we're coming out to the big tree. Oh, yeah, I think I see it.
That is the biggest one I've ever seen.
Oh my God. That thing is massive. Wow. We've seen some big trees, but they say this one's the biggest in Canada? Wow, like, that's so massive. This thing is a behemoth. Goliath tree. Stretching well into the sky and over 19 meters in diameter, this is an iconic western red cedar, one of the largest left in British Columbia. Over 1,000 years old, it's up there with some of the oldest organisms on Earth. It's crazy to think that we'll only get to experience a few generations, while this being has stood and witnessed upwards of 80 to 100 generations. We felt humbled and in awe. Even after falling to the forest floor, it'll remain here for centuries due to natural defenses that make it resistant to rot and decay. And this superpower only increases with age. Here, it'll become a life giver or nurse log for new trees to grow into eternity. Quite literally, the tree of life, as it's known by coastal First Nations people, whose material and supernatural world has depended on its wood sustaining them since time immemorial. Highly valued by the logging industry, there are very few of these old-growth forests left, virtually wiped from our ecosystem over the last 200 years. This is one of the last few remaining giants, and more than ever, forests like this need to be protected.
Well, what do we have here?
It's a bit of a random concoction for lunch, but there is focaccia that we made last night. There is tabbouleh that we made last night, and we have a prawn.
A prawn each. How was your one and only prawn?
One prawn definitely leaves you wanting more.
There's so many flies
So
here.
many flies here. I don't know if this will be a tonight anchorage with this many flies.
I don't know if it can be. There's literally, like, I've killed a dozen
Yeah.
horseflies, and oh my god, he's
Little
still
intense.
living.
How is he still alive? He's dead now, buddy.
That's the thing with these anchorages with no wind.
Yeah, the cockpit is littered in big fly carcasses. It's wild.
Hoping that the sight and smells of this carnage will deter the others from wanting to bother us. So, gonna leave these guys out here as a big message. Tell your friends, flies, don't come mess with us. If it's this bad, we'll probably have to leave because we just killed like 40 in, 10 minutes. The weather in the inlet has been so settled the last few days. We've been able to stay anchored here in front of the hot springs. Honestly, I think we could stay here forever. Definitely want to come back to this place in future. Sadly, I think the time has come to haul up anchor and continue on.
It's really hard to leave.
It's really, really hard to leave. I mean, this could be like the best spot in BC or the entire Pacific Northwest. I know it's a very bold statement, but could possibly be true. Really hard to leave. The next stop is also a hot spring. So, like, it's just leaving one hot spring to go to another hot spring, which is kind of the awesome thing about the Discovery Coast, or as I'm going to start recalling it, the sail to soak coast, where you can sail downwind, up inlets to places you can soak. In the winter, it could be sail to ski. I'm sure there's some great backcountry touring up here. Coming here in the winter would be really cool. I doubt it's as settled though, so it could be a little dicier. It's important to hydrate when you're in the hot springs. Out of all the places we've been, I would 100% do this trip again. It's just worth it to come up here. It's beautiful. You get to soak in the hot springs. This is amazing. 10 out of 10. I don't know what else to say about it. Where else can you sit in a hot tub in a fjord? With turquoise waters, mountain views, and settled weather, you can't really ask for very much more in life.
The trees, they are singing to the tune of a song, and the wind is gently ringing the bell that brings the morning, the welcome of the dawn.
I'm scared. It's like a slaughterhouse.
It is teeming with black flies.
I'm like legit concerned that these things might just like grab me by the cuffs of my shoulders and like fly off with me to their lair. Did you ever read Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse Number 5?
No.
Yeah, it reminds me of that.